Hey everyone, happy DynamicsCon day one. Hope you all had a great day. I'm a little tired. I don't know about you all. I don't know if it was staying up all night watching some Netflix or just the fun and excitement of today, but I'm so glad you guys joined us today. Hopefully you've stuck around here. It's 6 o'clock Eastern. And I don't know, there's all kinds of folks joining from all over the globe, having dinner and then attending sessions. I'm seeing others in Australia waking up first thing, so I'm so thankful for our community joining. I'm Jon Stypula. I'm a co-founder of DynamicsCon, and if you don't know me and my story, we can talk offline, but the cliff notes are I'm was a customer of Dynamics AX over a decade ago, and joined multiple user groups and got involved in the community as a user, and transitioned to partner, and then now kind of community enthusiast. I've been working with Doug and our meetups and DynamicsCon now since 2016, and excited to see what we've done here with the second year of DynamicsCon. And as you may have heard or may be aware, there's just been a lot of changes to our community as we've had to go virtual, as the Dynamics and Power Platform product has grown globally. I think people have looked for more creative ways to build their skill sets and expand upon the great work that was already kind of happening. And along those lines, Microsoft made an announcement recently at Ignite about some changes that they're making in our space. And so what we thought we would do is invite Heather Newman, who is the principal PM for community success team at Microsoft, to an hour-long, we're calling it a fireside chat, where we're going to have a kind of a little bit of a discussion between Heather and I, and then a Q&A kind of afterwards with the audience to hear more about what Microsoft is doing with the community and what they see as the kind of future for community. So welcome, Heather.
Hi, John. I'm so thrilled to be here. Where's our crackling fire?
It's right here. It's actually there. I have it turned on electronically, so we have an actual fire. It's almost snowed here in Ohio yesterday, so it's perfect. A nice little cozy up next to the fireplace and have a chat. Just you and me and our 8,000 friends.
8,000.
So, why don't you introduce yourself a bit more, Heather, and your experience and your background?
Sure, I'd love to. So I'm coming to you today from Los Angeles, Marina Del Rey, California. Although I am a mitten girl, I am from Michigan originally, so I understand the cold and a good warm fire. I have been in and around, I guess, Microsoft for about 20 years this year. So for me, I started in 2001 when SharePoint was called Tahoe. And I have been working in and around that community ever since. I've been a full-time employee. I've been a supplier vendor. I was an Office Apps and Services MVP for a few years. I've had my own marketing consulting business. I've had a software company. And then many of you may know me from my time, it was about a decade when I was running all of the event logistics for events for Office and SharePoint and Windows Embedded and PASS SQL Server Summit and also Convergence. So you probably, maybe, I don't know, seen me on a stage or helping push somebody else on a stage, but I've been around a while. And then back in June, a gal named Donna Sakar, which many of you probably know Donna. She's amazing.
All roads lead to Donna, don't they?
Yeah, right, totally. It's either Donna Sakar for me or Caruana Gatimu on the Teams team. Like the three of us continue to kind of help each other in our careers. And Donna called me and she was like, you got to get back to Microsoft. I got a thing. And I said, okay. And she said, what's up with you in Power Platform? And I was like, well, yeah, I know about it as an MVP and stuff. And she was like, in Dynamics? I was like, of course. And she said, well, we want to do some new things around community. And we're looking for a leader in that space to come in and work on strategy and think about how we grow and support and empower and listen. And I said, I've been doing that for the SharePoint community for a really long time and Teams. And I was like, that sounds awesome. And so Charles Lamana said yes. And so here I am. 9 months into the job, and happy to be in front of all of you to say hello. So I get to meet you if I haven't, reconnect with friends I've had for forever, and know that I'm a community person now on the Microsoft side, hopefully bringing you things that you want to help support the community, and also big listening ears. I have them covered right now, but excited to talk to you all and answer your questions. So that's me.
I think we're very excited to have you here. Obviously DynamicsCon is so thankful for Microsoft sponsoring us. But sponsorship or not, I think we welcome you to this conference anytime you want to come and share or talk or listen. And I've got a feeling that our community has a lot to say. And I hope they bring some good questions here. But first, let me just say, so what was announced at Ignite? What is Microsoft doing in Dynamics and Power Platform community different than they have been doing?
Sure. So at Ignite, we did have an announcement. I would say it was a softer announcement. It was during some of the live chats, during some of our executive keynotes and sessions. There were some tweets that went out about it. So basically, we've been listening to all of you, community members and customers, and there's no better way to connect with you than community, and meaning our community is online that we have as Microsoft, but it's also blogs you write, YouTube channels that you're putting things on, Twitter, all of the places in social media and all of that. So one of the things, we all obviously are, I don't know, it's in the middle of COVID, dealing with, all of the things that this year has brought us, this week really being kind of the anniversary of everything that has happened to everyone universally. And so I was actually part of the Teams engineering team last year around this time when we basically said we need to bring all of these physical events to virtual. And so Caruana Gatimu, who I mentioned before, had me help the team do that. And so it was watching an engineering team in motion like I have never seen before in my life. It was epic. And everybody has had to make those changes, right? And so one of the things that happened during sort of that time is that we were getting a lot of feedback. Microsoft was getting a lot of feedback about user groups and how can I find them and where can we host them and how can we be better connected and how can Microsoft do a better job with all of us on the product engineering team, which is where my team sits for Power Platform in James Phillips' organization. How can we do a better job of giving having a place for us to be? And so and we're growing. Like I said, like Jon said, our product growth is amazing, and our community growth is not growing quite as fast as the product, and that's sort of a good and bad thing, if you will. But I want to bring up a slide and speak to it a little bit, so you can sort of have a visual too about sort of what we did. Yeah,
perfect,
cool. So, like I said, product usage is going faster than community. Customers are wanting more connection. And then the current user group experience we've heard from folks can be a little confusing. And user groups are really valuing independence and want more support to grow. And so what we announced at Ignite, to get back to your question, is that we decided that we were going to build inside of our online communities. So community.dynamics.com, for example, where I'm sure you all go a lot to answer questions, get questions answered, to post your blogs, all of that. We are going to be launching a first party, I guess, as we call it, user group experience that the infrastructure will be on that community site. And also will be supported by Microsoft infrastructure-wise. We're working with a set of designers internally, our engineering teams building that. And then also we've been working very hard because all of you have this question mark probably that's, well, what about DCI? Dynamic Communities, Inc., which we've had a great partnership for a long time with, and we continue to have a great partnership with. We've been working a lot with their team on the changes that they've seen with their company and the new things that they've been putting out. We did a call last week with their advisory board and leaders to talk about this program that we're launching. So as of the next few months, there is going to be some transitions with DCI, and also the user group website infrastructure for DCI will continue to be there. However, when we launch basically what we're calling the public preview of our user group experience, and we've been in private preview since December, and we've been an advisory board, as you know, because you're on, Jon, with a bunch of MVPs and other influencers and folks. We will change the drop down. So when you're in community.dynamics.com and you see user groups on the nav, instead of going to DCI, it will drop you into the user group infrastructure that we are building there.
Yeah, which I'm super excited about. I mean, I think it makes total sense. And when you guys shared this with us and when you told us kind of your vision a bit, I couldn't have been happier. I mean, as a user, I wanted to have a more direct relationship with Microsoft. And I was struggling sometimes finding those folks. And then also the engineering side of Microsoft, they were struggling to find me.
Yep.
And I think it was always sometimes, not always, it was sometimes difficult to have that connection if it was always going to go through a third party. I still think there's room for third parties. I mean, maybe you can talk a little bit more about how you see that working at some point. Maybe that would be a question that comes up, because there's still a lot of great events out there, and there's still a lot of, and it doesn't sound like it's something that's an or, it's an and, but thank goodness it's a wonderful and, because we get direct access to Microsoft, and it shows a huge investment, I would say.
Yeah, I agree. I'm a big fan of the yes and in general, but I'm gonna I'll pop to the next slide so we have that up too. There we go. Yeah, it's sort of, you and I've been talking about this a little bit about what the community experience is, and actually just what is community, and it's such a subjective question when I ask that of people and we talk about it, and I love talking about that. I think it's it's huge in our life cycle of the customer life cycle, right? Of we show up kind of in all parts of it, if you will, from somebody trying to figure out like, what is this, and where can I find more information? There's a community. I've bought something and I want to know more about how to use it, and I want to figure out something. Well, there's a community, right? So, and to me, truly, having been in the SharePoint community and Teams for 20 years, like the community to me is family, first of all, just to say that. So. It's really important to me. I did tours, what I would call of events, and so you get to know people, right? Their wives and hearing about their kids and everything. And so, like, to me, family is community. And so I know that this community, the Dynamics community, and all the folks that have participated in it over the years, it's like family, right? And so when things ebb and change, change is hard sometimes. Right?
Yeah, it is. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. Our keynote this morning with Sean and Taylor talking about community, and some of it was work community, some of it was church or just hometown community. But I know that the Dynamics community went through a lot as Sean was going through that, and they shared their experience. It definitely pulled us all together. I was touched when Taylor was saying that he was reading hundreds of comments, a night by people wishing him well. That was just an amazing thing. I think it speaks to the power of this little kind of tight knit community. Communication hasn't been the strongest, I think, in some of these changes that have going through. So I really applaud Microsoft for coming here, talking, and Heather, I know your door is open. Your Twitter handle is right there saying, ask me, what can we do? What are you missing from community that you want to see? It might not be that Microsoft can do it right away, or even that it's the right place for it, but I know you're always willing. Anytime I've needed to ask a question, you're like, call me right now. I got 10 minutes. Let's chat. What's going on? So I'd like to just hear a little bit more about what are some of those investments. So I know you're building a user group platform. So you're actually building technology to support this user group. You're also staffing people. You're also possibly working on in-product notifications to group and network people. Can you just share more about what you guys are investing in?
Yeah, you bet. Absolutely. So it's infrastructure and staff, both for sure. So one of the things that we've been talking a lot about in the engineering on the product side with the product teams, all of Power Platform and Dynamics 365 is that, what's that seamless in-product experience, right? Of being able to, see what's going on across the product, across web, across user groups, across events. And so we're working on some roadmap items just around like, how does it show up more? There are today, so you get some in-product blurbs, and we want to work on more of that. Like, what is that seamless experience of how does community actually potentially show up in the product a little bit more as well? How is it personalized? How could it see where you are and maybe make a suggestion if you're okay with those kinds of things in your settings? But being able to have that sort of that really seamless experience, so that hunting and pecking for information is a waste of time in a lot of ways. And so being able to have that brought up. The other thing, so another piece of it is that I have found even I've worked with my California user groups here for years. So on the SharePoint and Office side. And so I'm LA, I've got Sacramento, San Diego, San Francisco, the list goes on of all of us who've worked together forever doing user groups and also SharePoint Saturdays. Mm-hmm. And, we have had a great, at the time when I was a community member at FTE, that we would work with, who would help us book our rooms and make sure that, when we were like looking for sponsorships and all of that kind of stuff. So mm-hmm. I've got all that in my mind about that what is needed. And also I'm always loving to hear like what would be helpful. One of the things I have found, I traveled around the world in 2019. I did 28 events and I was in 6 different countries and like Africa, India, all over the place. And I was doing user groups. We did a tour in South Africa, for example. And, it is one of those things that we want the Microsoft field leads to be involved in user groups. And so we're putting together a program called our Community Advocates to make sure that we have that connection, so that as a leader who your local field person is and how they can help. And also the person who has, I think, a lot of the power in any situation is the person who runs the office and the front desk. And so knowing who they are as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? It's like, those are the people you need to give chocolate to. Frankly. So it's really building that program as well. And that's coming out of our marketing team. And I'm really excited about that. And then
you're hiring full-time people, or you're hiring people, staff to help foster, collaborate, network, connect our customer and partner users in our communities around the world with Microsoft.
Absolutely.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I'm going to have a handful of what we're calling user group coordinators. Okay. They're going to be doing a bunch of the back end work on the actual community, the platform, the infrastructure, sort of keeping an eyeball on how we add groups and add events and all of that. And you're like, what is this going to be? And I can't show you any sketches or anything.
Oh.
I'm like, maybe I should just like write something up.
Yeah.
But truly, it's going to look very similar to our community sites, and it will be a place where you can list your user group, and you can have it there, and then also you can put your events up and have it so that it's findable, and the events are findable. People can join your user group. People can join your events. As you have to, we like people to become members of the community. So there'll be a unauthenticated and authenticated version of what people can do once they are in. If to join groups and to join events, we definitely want people to be a part of the community and to sign up. There will be a community. We have a community code of conduct already that lives on the sites. Those things are really important to me about how we treat each other and how we speak with each other and all of that. We're adding some language for the user groups as well. So that'll be there. But yeah, we're staffing up to make those connections, both on sort of in our virtual world that we have, and knowing that, knock wood, that we'll be, heading back after vaccines happen to be in person again, and I can come be with all of you. And we can all be with each other, but booking rooms and those things that are part of what it is to run a successful user group and be consistent.
For sure.
So, yep. Also, one of the other things, so some people are like, what's your team like? Like, what's the deal? What's your structure like? And, so we're engineering product teams. We're in James Phillips' organization, and we come down into the partner and customer success team that's run by Mo Osborne. It's a great, awesome woman, who, she's also from Michigan, by the way. But anyway, so is Donna. I don't know what it is. It's something like that. But anyway, so we report into Siva Harnath, and we are, I love it that we're in engineering. Sometimes at Microsoft Community sits in marketing. Sometimes it sits in engineering. Like for the charter, what we call charters, or your go-tos or whatever. So like Anna Chu, who runs the Microsoft tech community on the other side of the house, for Office and Teams and SharePoint and all of that. Like, you know, we're all in sort of different spaces. But anyway, because we sit close to the product, that's awesome. And what on my team, I have a handful of what we call community program managers, CPMs. And so they're folks like you would know Pervin Patel in the Dynamics space, and Fawad Khan, who've been working on our communities for a long time. And so in Power BI has Kelly Kay, and Power Apps has Chuck Sterling. And I actually have a couple of open headcount right now, by the way, too. Just saying, for Dynamics, actually, and Power Automate and Power Virtual Agents. So, and those folks are in charge of the health and growth and empowerment of our communities. And so they all report to me, and I'm leading the strategy around user groups and kind of all the big items. And they're really taking those things, and we're executing together, but they're in charge of their communities. And we also have another layer of folks working on community to support them. So, and we have a design team, we have our marketing team, we have a beautiful events team. So there's a lot of people with their hands in community, and that's been there for a while, but I think there's some real interesting cohesion that's happened recently, and I'm really excited to be a part of it. We have a whole platform side of our team too. So we're growth and engagement and programs. And then we have the platform side of the team that really runs and takes care of and engineering devs, that platform, the community platform that you are, answering questions on and all of that. Right. And that's run by a counterpart of mine. And a bunch of folks on that team to keep the health of it going, keep it up, innovating there. We had someone that said, I really want to put JSON code in a forum answer. What the heck? And I was like, oh, well, that makes sense. We should totally do that. Well, we pitched that over to the platform team. And we're like, hey, can you open up a ticket and make that happen? Right. So that's kind of how that works. Because a lot of people are like, I don't get it. And those of us, I'm very active in social media. Most of our CPMs are as well. So we're kind of out there.
I think getting to know those players and who to connect, like you said, and is going to be key. So we'll help you connect with our community as best as possible and others. And just very impressed to see the investment from you guys. And the need has been there for years, and I'm so glad to see you guys take this opportunity. So can you just talk a little bit, and then I'm going to ask Liz to come in here a little bit and start. I'm sorry we haven't gotten to any of the questions, the fun questions from the community, but I'll ask Liz to come in here after this. But maybe you could just touch on for a second. So what's happening later this year? What are some dates that we might want to keep in mind? How can our community keep a lookout other than following you?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you just teed up the next slide, which I'll put up. How about that?
It's almost like I've seen these slides, Heather.
I don't know. Did you see them? Maybe. That's awesome. Happy to talk about that, and excited for Liz to bring on some questions. So those of you who are like, what is this and what's happening? Again, I'm hoping I'm being clear with you about that. And if I'm not, please ask me to clarify anything. I'm happy to do that. So the announcement that happened at Ignite, if you go to these two aka.ms links, for those of you who've never seen an aka.ms link, you're like, what's that? It's kind of like Bitly, but it's Microsoft's way of shortening our giant URLs. So if you go to either of those, if you're Power Platform, you want to check out the PUG, the PPUG over there. And if you want to go, if you're interested in Dynamics, all flavors, go to Dynamics 365 UG announcement on the other side. So that's where you can sign up to be alerted about the public preview. And I would love it if you sign up. Like we've got 7,000 people today, 8,000 people. Oh my goodness, I think my bosses would like to do a backflip. So that would be awesome. Some of the other things. Tell me the question again. Totally got excited.
Just want. Yeah,
I totally got excited.
I was just wondering, kind of, so we can ask people to go to those AKA links, and we'll put them in the chat. Yeah. And then, kind of, what's the timeline for when you guys are launching things, and kind of what to expect? I know there's probably something around Business Application Summit, maybe, or something like that.
We'll see. But yeah. No, absolutely. I'm happy to do that. So I'm not allowed to talk about any hard and fast dates, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But, however, We have finished the private preview, like I was talking about, and so public preview is eminently coming.
Okay.
Comes soon, and so I'm hoping definitely before MBAS, Microsoft Business Application Summit, and we're doing kind of a rolling thunder sort of launch point of using obviously our first party events like MBAS, and we have the launch event coming up for business applications. So we will have what we'll call, I guess, moments happening along the way. But that big opening push will be coming up pretty soon. Definitely before MBAS, yeah. One other thing I wanted to point out too is that we've been working, like I've been talking about the Teams engineering team a bit, right? We are working with them on the engineering side. They're as part of what happened for COVID and moving events from physical to digital. There's a program, what is being called the Community Tenant, and that was set up by the Teams team. And they set that up in order to support user groups and people who are doing virtual events. And they've been piloting for a while as well, bringing in user groups and different events. Many SharePoint Saturdays, for example, have been launched from there, and other sort of larger events have gone through there to be supported. And what we're doing is we're working with them on making sure that we can offer a Microsoft Teams in the Community Tenant to all user group leaders, so that you would be using sort of the new infrastructure that we have on the community side as that place to like have your user group so people could find it and see it and advertise it and then find your events. But then knowing that having a center of gravity, which I like to say about Microsoft Teams, where you can have chit chats with each other and you can share things, you can actually host events, all of that stuff, where you have that thriving kind of community spirit there as well. So that's something that we're working on, and that will probably come post GA, but we're working on it now. And if I can make it go faster, I'm going to try. So,
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So plenty of stuff to look out for this spring and summer as you guys continue to build and launch and roll out.
Yeah, for sure. MBAS will definitely. I'd love to hear thoughts about Microsoft Business Application Summit. We're working right now on one of my charters is how does community show up at our events, and meaning community in the general sense of the word community, but also opportunities for all of you in our community, and what you want to see there and maybe potentially participate in. I was thinking it would be cool to have some, community members who've been, user group leaders for a long time, maybe teach a class on how to run a successful user group, what that means, how to write a budget, how to go after sponsorships, how to get speakers, and we're going to address, getting speakers as well with our user group coordinators. So I'd love to hear ideas, and we'll have tabletop topics, say that 5 times fast, opening for folks to submit if you want to run a tabletop too. So
our community is going to be knocking at that door. I think that's a great idea, how to support the local user group leaders on how to not just with the platform and the technology and the teams and the connection to engineering that you're going to provide, and not just bagels and access to the rooms, but really even development of how do you lead your user group. And that's a development piece in and of itself. And a lot of our MVPs kind of started as an attendee and then became a user group leader, and then kind of became MVPs through that kind of development arc. And I'm super excited to see that happen and see what you guys can do. I think that would be great. I know SQL Pass used to do something like that, where at their once annual event, they would invite the chapter leaders together and give them training and stuff like that. So I'm super excited. I would love to see that kind of content and more, of course. So.
Coming soon.
Well, Liz, let's invite you in here. Liz Allen from DUG.
Hey, Liz.
Hi, thanks for helping me join, because there's a ton of chatter in the.
Yeah, I was wondering. I actually couldn't quite see the chat, to be honest.
I'm going to take a drink of water and a breath. Okay.
Yeah. So what are people saying? Are they confused? Are they excited? What's happening?
Everybody is so excited. Besides wondering if there are fidget spinners and popcorns in the booth next door at the event. I think the biggest question that I have, that I don't think that you guys have completely covered yet, is if you could talk a little bit about what products are going to be focused on with these new user group communities that Microsoft is supporting. What are their specific versions? And there's a lot of support from folks like Zubin and Ember and Sean wanting to know if you're going to support Dynamics GP.
Okay, absolutely. Happy to answer that. John, do you have anything to say? Or
No, go right ahead. I'm like this. I can't wait to hear what you have to say.
I love it. Okay, so excellent question. So I will say that how we are working on this is that we have a certain infrastructure for our communities that live today, as you probably all know. So for Dynamics, for example, we have the Dynamics community. Community.dynamics.com, and then we also, for Power Platform, for everybody who's interested in that as well, which is everybody, we've got community.powerbi.com, right, which is all yellow and lovely, and then we've got powerusers.com that houses Power Apps and Power Automate and Power Virtual Agents. Essentially, all of those communities. One of the things I'm working on is how we show up across all of them with all of our different programs. For example, we just worked on bringing our super users program together. And what's a super user? Super user are folks who answer questions in our forum. And there's a point system and badges and all that kind of fun stuff. And you get a certain amount of points and answer a bunch of questions. You get invited to be the super user program. And there's information about that on the community sites. If you don't know where it is, please let me know and I'll point you to it. But so that's a really good example of where we're doing cross-platform bringing programs together. So, but anyway, at this point, what we're asking and laying out to people, and we want feedback on this as well, is that for Power Platform, we're offering Power Platform user groups, and then Power Apps, Power Automate, Power BI, and Power Virtual Agents. And so those will be all that can be requested on the Power Platform side of the house. And for Dynamics, we are going to have it be Dynamics 365. However, we do know that many of you have, GP and Nav and other ones. And so we'll have and want to have a focus on those things. We are going to have everything under the bailiwick of Dynamics 365. But if you would like to focus your user group on whatever you like, that is your choice and the way you want to run it. But they will all be in the Dynamics community. So that's what we're offering. Microsoft, we don't want to tell you how to run your user group, but we will have it under that one larger umbrella of Dynamics 365.
Okay.
Yep.
Very good.
Yep.
All right. So next question comes from Amber. She is wondering, so with the launch of the Microsoft user groups and the great things that you guys are doing there, Amber is wondering if you are going to be doing other things, things that DCI did, such as live events like summit, webinars, and chapter meetings.
Let's see. So DCI is going to continue with their events, which we're happy to support and be a part of as speakers and all of that stuff. So they're going to continue with that. I know that for sure, with Summit and all of that. So one of the things that we will be doing is a monthly call for community user group leaders. So we will continue that tradition of getting people together to have a phone call with us, kind of an office hours, if you will. Those will be led by our user group coordinators, and I will be heavily involved with them. And then also for each of the different areas of community, like our community program managers, like I was talking about, they are going to be heavily involved in user groups for their separate areas. And so they will be on those calls once a month as well. So you said events, and then chapter meetings, and what was the other one?
Webinars.
Webinars, yeah. Webinars, we already, I don't know if we'll be doing webinars in the way that DCI was doing webinars. We work with community members a lot of the times to create webinars, and also with MVPs and super users. So we'll continue to be building content like that will go up on our Microsoft Power Platform, like YouTube channels, and up on our video galleries, up on our community. But I think in the traditional sense, the way that DCI has been running webinars, we won't be doing that.
Very good. Very good. Early on in the chat, when you guys were talking, Merlin asked the question, will the Microsoft user groups charge money to be members? And I think you kind of answered that. But as a follow-on question, they're wondering, is there lunch and bagels and coffee? Because it seems like people need free food or stuff to meet in person, according to chat.
That is always the first question, which I love.
We made it to the second, so
The
that's we're
second,
doing better.
Yeah, totally, absolutely. So I know that there's depending on whether your user group was with DTI or if you have it on Meetup or LinkedIn or whatever, or you have a sponsor or all of that, all of that, great. I think one of the things what I won't commit to is that we're gonna have we're sponsoring XYZ yet. Honestly, y'all, I'm working through it. I'm trying to figure out what that might mean of how we can help with those sorts of things. We meaning Microsoft, and what that might look like. And so I am thinking through that because I know that was something that some people got and some people didn't, which is also sort of I believe, a point of contention. So it's about being clear about what we are doing. And so I'm going to just say that I don't know yet. And that's also the case where, I know the other thing besides food is swag and giveaways and prizes and all that kind of fun stuff, right? And you're like, where are my socks? So, which I'm trying to work on that because I love my SharePoint and that side of the house socks as well. They did Argyle. I'm thinking maybe we'll do Paisleys, but we'll see. Anyway, but honestly, we are working through that stuff and thinking about it, and also thinking about gamification as well. Of like that's a great way to incent people to do things. We want people to, I'd love for you to bring your user group over, But if you're, running it in Meetup or LinkedIn groups or other places, and you're like, we like it there. I invite you to come try and see what you think,
Mm-hmm.
But it's because it's going to be free. We will have lots of incentives and support. I know that for certain. And you'll have that direct connection that we're going to work on through these advocacy programs that we're building. And I really do want to do some gamification because I love swag. I mean, I'm going to show you something. I built this. This is a box that I built. Can you see what that says? SharePoint Products and Technologies.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm proving to you I've been around a long time. So that's SharePoint Portal Server 2003 Office front page and Windows SharePoint services. I built this box, right? You know what's in here? Matchbox cars. And they each have logos. So I'm not messing around when it comes to swag. I love it. So we're going to figure some of this good stuff out. So, like stuff like this, we should be doing things like that. So Anyway, so lunch, swag, all that sort of thing. I will update you soon. Promise. Okay.
You don't have it figured out, but it's okay. I think even if you point us to where to buy the swag, we just love stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Working on it. So yeah, and anything you really, really like you'd be like, Heather, it'd be awesome. XYZ, hit me up on Twitter. Love it. So
yeah, I'm looking for my copy of. We made a Sure Step board game.
Oh, wow.
For implementing Dynamics, although just coming out of Neil's session about agile implementations, he'd probably throw something at me.
Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah. More questions.
Can I give Liz a break? I have a question.
Yeah, totally. Sure.
So, I'm a Teams user. I'm a SharePoint user.
Mm-hmm.
How connected are our groups going to be? Are we going to be able to collaborate with them? If there's a SharePoint user group in my town, am I going to be able to work with them too? Are they using the same platform I'm using?
Yeah. Great question. Yeah. As it stands right now, one, please do. Please work with them. But you're like, but how do I know them? How do I figure out where they are?
Yeah.
As it is today, we do have separate communities. So the Power Platform and Dynamics communities are in one, what I'll call sort of instancer side, and then the Microsoft Tech community has its own. I literally was just on a call when I started. I decided to reach out to all my people that I've been working with forever, the community leads inside of Microsoft, and said, hey, can we start talking about how we're measured? Because that's kind of important. And is it the same? How do our communities link up together? Do they even talk to each other? And so Anna and their team and my team, we're talking about that from a platform perspective as well as a programs perspective. And so I am committed to having that happen more. As it stands right now, do you need to be members of both communities to play in them? Yes, you do. And that, nothing I can do about that right now, but it's definitely something we're thinking about and talking through. Because it's about the customer experience, right? And so, you want to find something about a Microsoft product and about a community, it should be easy, right?
Well, those are the things I love about Microsoft is the stack and the power that Microsoft brings. And but I'm excited that by your experience in some of those other areas and your network there,
Yeah.
I'm very excited to see,
Yeah.
how we can grow there. Cause I know that I'm in some Azure and Teams community stuff, and it's huge, and they've already figured out some of this stuff, and so there's a lot to learn and grow there too.
Yeah, we would, and with what happened with Pass, was a big bummer. Of course, I used to run Microsoft's presence at Pass years ago, and I loved that event and everybody, and but I've been working a lot with Remerit, who is a big part of that, and Buck Woody I was literally talking to them today. I've known Buck forever, and we've been talking about, okay, how are you handling this? What are you all doing? How can we make sure we're kind of on par with each other and understanding that? And I think it's important that we're talking cross division. Microsoft's a giant company, right?
Yeah.
And so, I think it's great that our community leaders, we're all coming together to have these conversations, baby steps on certain things, because I think a lot has been, you grow and things happen and you react. And, but I do think that, one Microsoft from, the top from Satya all the way down is about our community spaces as well. And
yeah. Agreed. And but also, I'm not just saying this, I'm very thankful that you guys just didn't mainline community Dynamics and Power Platform community over there, because Microsoft is so big and our little community could get lost. And so I'm really excited, at the way you're addressing this. So
awesome. We wanted it in the community that you're used to using. And build on top of that. So
Liz, what else you got for us?
Yeah, it's a great segue actually into my next question, which comes from Allison. Allison was wondering, could the Microsoft Communities platform provide the scheduling calendar that shows the dates of all the local community meetings so that they make sure they don't schedule too close together or on top of each other? For example, the Portland and Seattle CE groups won't schedule on the same day. And also wondering if that same calendar is able to filter by product as well as location.
I'm like, I want that calendar for my life.
Don't we all?
I know. I'm all like 4 products plus Dynamics 20. Yeah, I'm like, it's a lot. So that's a great point. And I will take it back to the team. That's an engineering development question for the platform of, can we have a calendar? We've been talking about a calendar and a shared calendar, and what would that look like? So I don't have an answer for you in this moment, but it's definitely something I think it would be awesome if we had it. So I'll take it back up. So appreciate the question. Don't have an answer yet, but
awesome.
Yep.
And I know you've talked a lot about the resources and things that Microsoft is going to provide. And I think you've mainly focused a little bit on the people resources.
Yep.
People are just wondering, many of the current user group communities within Dynamics and the 365 and Power Platform are leveraging things like Meetup and Eventbrite.
Mm-hmm.
Will you be providing any guidance to those communities on maximizing event apps and the forthcoming community portals?
Sure. Yeah. All of those, Sessionize, Eventbrite, I used them in the past for our community efforts here in Los Angeles and California. And I love them. They're great apps. I've been working with our California folks here because they did a big virtual marathon a few months ago, and they've been talking about working with Eventbrite and Meetup and Sessionize and some of the other ones, and looking at APIs to see what you can pull where, and then actually just putting that up on GitHub. So I'm having those conversations with folks about what's possible, and is there potentially a connector that could be built, right? I was actually on the community connector team, or the connector team for Power Platform today, talking about what connectors are coming out and being built for Power Platform, but in specifically, but also just in general. So I want to be able to give some guidance on that. I feel like for, say, Eventbrite and Sessionize, those are things that I don't think at this time we're not replacing those. Sessionize is such a great tool, and so is Eventbrite. It's a great place to find an event, right, and for registration. Although I think I would continue to watch, Teams, Microsoft Teams has made so many strides, as we know, right, in our meetings, our video, people leveraging it for virtual events. So I would continue to watch that roadmap for things coming in Teams, which you'll all be able to leverage once we get that connection out in sometime, hopefully in the late summer. But I also feel like as far as if you're on Meetup, if you're on DCI, if you're in LinkedIn group, I feel like, I would offer to have you come give this a try and see what you think. And if you want to move, that's great. I mean, we're offering something for free that we're building and we're going to get feedback on and continue to build and have it be community sort of led and supported. But, with the infrastructure by Microsoft. So I'm not trying to avoid the answer, to be honest with you. But honestly, it's up to you about how you want to run your user group. And if you're like, I like what I'm doing, I'm staying. I would rather you come and try and be a part of it so you get found there and all of that. But I also feel like it might take a little bit for that to happen. And so, you have to do what feels right. With DCI, I feel like, eventually over time, those sites will most likely go away, right? So you're probably going to need to make some sort of a choice. So.
Great, thanks, Heather. And I'm, as an advisory member of this group with you, I've seen some of it in some of the previews, and I'm super excited about it. I mean, is it everything Meetup is right now? Maybe not, but they're building it for us. They're building it purpose-built for our community. So, and we'll get to ask for those things we need for those drop-down filters and stuff. And it might take some time, and maybe not everything gets approved, but I think we're going to get there. And ultimately, the integration with teams and the ability to connect in product and connect with engineers and engineering from Microsoft and the community forums, I think is going to outweigh any of the platform questions in the long run. But it might take us a couple months to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're building as fast as we can.
There's a lot of stuff to build, I imagine, Heather, including, which I think I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it so everybody else can hear the answer. Question from Sean wants to know if Microsoft is going to police the user group with guidelines, if there will be some sort of code of conduct for partners and, things around being sales and solicitation and such, as well as how is that going to be enforced if there is one?
Sure. I will say that Microsoft, well, with anything we do as far as our community sites or our events, there is always a code of conduct. And that's part of our DNA and who we are. Microsoft takes diversity and inclusion very seriously and all of those sorts of things, as well as, no harassment policies and that kind of stuff. So if you're in the community now, you have agreed to a code of conduct already. So just, when you sign up, that's what happens. And so that will continue to be the case. And there will be a section about user groups that will be updated across all of them. How are those enforced? They're enforced how you would think they would be. That if there's issues, then you need to speak with, we will have a support email section, and you'll have access to the user group coordinators. And so when something goes down, that would be the chain of command that we have in place for those sorts of things. How it would be enforced, I can't say exactly, because it could be a myriad of things that go down, but we'll definitely be keeping an eye on those things. And the basic, don't be a jerk,
It's funny the things you police for, but right?
Yeah, and I do, and also with user groups, I know that has been brought up by folks about somebody starting a user group and all it is about them trying to sell stuff and all of that, and we don't want that. We don't want spam. We don't want people berating other folks, and so there will be some language in there about solicitation and all of that sort of thing. Now, someone asked about, can a partner have a user group? And, it's like, if a partner's been running a user group and it's been terrific for a really long time and they just happen to run it, then so be it. I feel like we're trying to be super inclusive as well, and making sure that we're, including everybody, but also, having some guidelines and having some, rules as far as that stuff, so that when things do happen, that you have a way to take care of them. I think that's what contracts and rules and guidelines are for. So,
right.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep.
So I'm running out of some of the questions, I think, but one of the things that we have not asked you yet, Heather, and even Jon, if you guys both want to give your opinion on this, but people want to know, when are we going to be back in person?
Oh, wow. That's a great question.
I know I miss it. I miss traveling
I
so
do.
much and seeing all of you. Like, just having this dialogue online is awesome, but it's no replacement for that in
It
person.
isn't. I'll take it first, Heather, and then let you know
Okay.
you can figure out. But I think DynamicsCon was born, as a virtual event.
Right.
It's something to do and to try to skill up the community a bit, and have some fun. I haven't been to many virtual events that I find a whole lot of fun, to be honest. And I generally get busy and just figure I'll catch, the content later or read Twitter or something like that. So we're trying to do something with some pre-record, but then some Q&A to fake it, and Liz, I think this is great, but it's really hard. And until you're in person, really kind of immersed in the experience, you can't virtualize a hug, and that's kind of what this is. It's like a business hug, I guess, community. It's very, very tough to fake virtually. So I think these types of things are nice, but I cannot wait to get back. I think, Heather, you alluded to it. I think, at a certain point when vaccines and things get to a point, I think we'll know. And we'll probably try small. I'm sure we'll try something too in the fall, maybe, or early next year. And see what happens. See if people are interested. But there's going to definitely be people that'll say it's too soon. There'll be another group of people that say you've been long enough. There's probably no just right. But I'm excited to see. And Heather, I mean, you guys, have Microsoft made any announcements about in person?
I'm trying to think if we have like the most up to date. And I know that for what I've heard, the same that was reported before, I think in the news, that, as far as into the summer, everything's going to be virtual. I honestly don't have an update on, like a date or when, but I do know, I mean, we get updates from Kurt Delbenny, on a weekly basis of what's going on and what's opening up. And he's awesome. He used to be in the Office SharePoint land, so I've known him forever, and he's terrific and really got the pulse of things. I think it is going to depend, right? It's going to just depend on how people's comfortability levels, and then also the vaccines. And we're probably going to do a lot of baby crawl, walk, run steps in this thing. But there's countries right now that are doing, some in-person user groups. They're trying it out with social distancing and masks and stuff like that. I've been talking to folks, more on who are at islands, if you will, so that is happening. And so, in building something for our user groups and all of you, it's thinking about, okay, right now we're virtual, and so if I want to go to, an event in Paris or whatever, I can, because it's online. If I choose to like get up at that time in the middle of the night or whatever, right? But knowing that the events will also probably be hybrid, because frankly, because my travel schedule was so bad, it good for me, but bad for my user group. It was that I was like, can we all do like one off and one on, virtual versus physical? And that started before COVID hit, and everybody was like, okay, cool, we'll try it out, And what happened was I was able to get more speakers from other places or other Microsoft folks, that could dip into the virtual world where they couldn't on a physical, right? So, I mean, as soon as we can, I think that Microsoft in general will be, doing, making more announcements. But for what I know for right now, I don't have any information for you past June, unfortunately. So. Yeah.
I think I'll just add, you just said something that kind of triggered something too, is like, I think 2 years ago, no one would come to this, and I think
right?
That's out of the bag. We're working from home. We're all buying high def cameras and microphones now. So we're becoming better at being virtual, I think, unfortunately. And so I'm sure there's some and scenario there where we're on and off, or we're, our New Zealand meetup is trying in person again, because they could, and that's what's great about having these local user groups, that they can kind of determine what's right for them, and do, maybe larger virtual ones or alternate. I think it's going to be an interesting couple of years while we all figure this out.
Yeah, I remember it was Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas. Eric Shups, who's a SharePoint cowboy, who's a dear friend of mine. He started doing virtual inside of his physical meetings, just so that they could attract more people and also be inclusive to folks who couldn't get there and all of that. They had some folks that needed that, and so he started doing that years ago, and he's always found it very successful to, have the meeting in person but be broadcasting out. But again, equipment. How do you set it up? You have to become more of a producer, if you will, or a moderator.
Right.
And depending on what office you're in and all of that stuff, if it's physical, that is it set up for that sorts of things. And I think we all have had to become, more producers. And I mean, we spent, 20 minutes before, we're like, where's the camera and where's my lighting and how does this look? And am I blown out or whatever, and that's all. You want it to look good and come off well, right? So those things have become important, so.
Right.
Yeah. And I want to apologize to David. He did ask this question way in the beginning, and I missed it, trying to sort through everybody's chats. But he was wondering if you think that this change of community would have happened without the collapse of the in-person events because of the pandemic. I think that's geared at you, Heather.
Yeah, fascinating question.
Yeah, I think that is a really good question. I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I've watched user groups grow and change in many different communities over the years that I belong to, both tech and then outside. I think that Microsoft making a decision to do this was, in most of the things that we do, it's based on feedback, and it's based on listening to customers and listening to the community. Coming back into my role and coming back into Microsoft, I've been sort of blown away by that's the truth, that we take a lot of time to do research, to put out surveys, to ask people questions, to, all of that sort of thing. And so I feel like maybe because, that was the feedback that was coming in. And I think it was heard, and it was heard from sort of my level, even pre me coming into this role, but all the way up to the SLT. This Charles Lamana is very supportive of this. Arun, Muhammad, Frank, and James Phillips and Alyssa Taylor on those levels as well. So they're all very supportive and know the importance of community, because as you're seeing, we're investing in it. So do I know if it would have happened like this or not? I'm not sure, but I do know that I'm excited and happy that we are, listening and making motions and making investments. I think that's really exciting. So I know, I'm sorry, I'm trying to answer your question to the best, that I can there, but that's kind of how I feel. So.
Right.
No, I think that was great, Heather. And I know we're coming up on time here, so maybe one more quick one before you jump into kind of a summary and wrap up, Heather. But can you talk a little bit about what is next for some kind of unity between Microsoft and Dynamics User Group and DynamicsCon?
Sure. I mean, I think it's stuff like this, where, this is the team I'm running now. I'm super excited to be here, and we should have more conversations. And my email address is heather.newman@microsoft.com. So, and more things like this, and accessibility to us. We're the community team, so you should be able to talk to us. And so I want more visibility for my community program managers and community managers as well. And I feel like, we have a responsibility in our partnerships, whatever they are, to make sure that, we're doing right by each other. And so in continuing to work with all of you here at DynamicsCon and Dynamics UGs, and also with DCI, I, have been getting to know folks. It's interesting, having a 20-year career and then really kind of being, I guess, I'll say sort of the other side of the house, sort of, although I've been in SQL Server and went to Convergence and all that. So, but a lot of you I don't know. We've never met. You've never seen me on stage, doing my stuff and all of that, and pushing people on stage as an event producer and speaking and all of that. But I'm looking forward to meeting you and working with you and really building our communities. And not building like, oh, we need to grow them, they need to be more, although we always love that, but really supporting you in what you're doing, and what you need, and listening to you and making sure you're being listened to. So I say more of this is what I recommend, and working with the advisory boards and leaders of all of you who have spent so much time and energy over the years, pouring your hearts into something. And I know what that feels like. And I'm excited to continue to do it with you. So, yeah.
Well, thank you, Heather. And thank you for coming here and talking to our community and strengthening that relationship with Doug and our attendees. I know they really, really appreciate it. We'll allow people to continue asking questions on our dynamicsuser.net forums. They can come to you through your email or your Twitter handle or mine there and bring additional questions throughout the week. And I'm sure you'll be listening, and I know how to get a hold of you being on the committee and other things. But so excited and thankful to have you here.
Yeah, thank you. I need to go back. I was not in your keynote this morning. So I really, from what you said, I want to go back and listen to that and see that, because I could feel your emotion about it. So I definitely want to go check that out.
Bring your Kleenexes.
Yeah.
I would say.
Yes.
It really was something special. So
fair enough. Okay. Great. Well, I appreciate you, and Molly and John and the production team. No, great. Seriously, it's awesome. So I really appreciate it. The team appreciates it. We're really excited. And really happy to be a part of the conversation with you. And I'm not going anywhere. So let's wrap this up.
Awesome.
Thanks. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night. And we'll see you tomorrow for day 2 of DynamicsCon.
Oh, my goodness. Yay. Thanks, everybody.